What would you do if a kid with a dented metal lunchbox stopped you outside a rehab clinic and said, "Your brother's not stuck, his brain just forgot the map"? And the scary part, he didn't sound hopeful. He sounded certain. It was a gray morning in Tacoma, Washington. Not stormy, not dramatic. Just cold enough that your breath looked like smoke and your hands stayed buried in your pockets. People moved fast outside Harborview Outpatient Therapy. Hoods up, coffee in hand, eyes locked forward like looking down might break them. But one person wasn't moving. A kid sat on a concrete planter near the automatic doors, knees tucked in, drawing on scrap paper like the weather couldn't reach him. His name was Noah Knox Medina. 10 years old. Too skinny for his jacket. Shoelaces mismatched. And that lunchbox beside him, old, scratched, the kind you'd expect from a thrift store, not a childhood. He didn't ask for money. Didn't try to sell anything. He just watched people the way some kids watch ants. Like he was studying patterns. Across the parking lot, an older sedan sat running, heat on full blast, while a woman in the driver's seat stared at the building like it was a courtroom. Her name was Rachel Hart. Early 30s. Hair in a messy bun. Hands clenched around the steering wheel until her knuckles went pale. In the passenger seat was her brother Eli. 24. Before the accident, Eli was loud, funny, always moving. Now he was quiet, shoulders slumped, his right hand curled slightly like it didn't belong to him anymore. A year ago, a motorcycle hit a slick patch near the bridge. The helmet saved his life, but the stroke after the trauma took something else. His right side still didn't listen. His words came out slow. And his confidence disappeared first. Rachel killed the engine and whispered, "Ready." Eli didn't answer. She got out, came around, and helped him step onto the pavement, one careful movement at a time, like she was lifting a fragile object. That's when the kid stood up. Not rushing, not begging, just stepping into their path with the lunchbox in one hand like it was important. "Ma'am," the kid said. Rachel froze, part annoyed, part exhausted. "Yes." The kid looked past her, straight at Eli. "I can get his hand to open again." Rachel stared. "Excuse me." He repeated it, quieter. "I can get it to open, and I can help his foot stop dragging." Eli blinked like he didn't understand the sentence. Rachel's stomach tightened. You know that feeling when someone says the exact thing you're trying not to hope for? That. Rachel stepped forward. "Listen, sweetheart. I'm not asking for money," the kid cut in, gentle but firm. He lifted the lunchbox a little. "Just give me 5 minutes." Rachel laughed once, sharp, defensive. 5 minutes? Do you know how many specialists?" "I know," he said. And there was something in his tone that made her stop. Not arrogance. Not a performance. More like a kid repeating a rule he learned the hard way. Rachel looked at his shoes, the frayed sleeves, the lunchbox. A child shouldn't talk like that. "Where are your parents?" she asked. The kid's eyes flicked away for half a second. "Not here." Then he looked back at Eli. "Can I show you something?" Eli's jaw moved. His voice came out broken and small. "Okay." Rachel's mouth opened. She wanted to say no. But the therapist inside had been saying, "We'll see for a year." And suddenly, 5 minutes didn't feel dangerous. They sat on the low wall near the entrance. The kid set the lunchbox down and opened it. Inside wasn't food. It was a roll of athletic tape, a rubber band, a soft ball, and a small notebook with messy diagrams. Rachel's eyebrows lifted. "What is this?" The kid tapped the notebook. My grandma taught me she used to work hands with people, not machines, hands. He pointed at Eli's curled fingers. His hand is not asleep, it's just scared. Rachel frowned. Hands don't get scared. The kid tilted his head. Brains do. Then very carefully, he slid the soft ball into Eli's palm and wrapped the rubber band around Eli's fingers. Not tight, just enough to remind them where open used to be. Don't fight it, the kid said. Just look at your hand like it's somebody else. Be curious. Eli stared at his fingers, breathing shallow. The kid spoke softly, like he was talking to a frightened animal. Okay, now try to open, just 1 millimeter. Nothing. Rachel's heart dropped. The kid didn't react. He just nodded like that was expected. Good, he said. It listened. It heard you. Try again. Eli's fingers twitched. Not much, barely a ripple. But it was real. Rachel's breath caught so hard it hurt. Did you see that? She whispered. Eli blinked, eyes glossy. I felt it. The kid nodded once, satisfied. See, not broken. Rachel snapped, half angry, half desperate. Who taught you this? Where did you learn? The kid closed the lunchbox slowly. My grandma did it for my uncle after he came back from overseas. He didn't talk for months. She made him try anyway. He looked down at his shoes. She said, sometimes your body won't move until you feel safe. Rachel swallowed. That line hit her like a door slamming. Because Eli didn't just lose movement. He lost safety. In himself. Rachel stood up. What's your name? Noah, the kid said, but people call me Knox. And why are you sitting out here? He shrugged like it wasn't important. I wait. For what? He looked at Eli again. For somebody who's tired of being told, maybe. Rachel's throat tightened. She reached into her pocket automatically, then stopped. The kid had already said it. No money. So she did the only honest thing left. What do you want? She asked quietly. Knox hesitated, then he pointed to the clinic doors. Let him do therapy, but after, meet me at Kinsley Park tomorrow, by the lake at 4. Rachel almost laughed. This is insane. Knox nodded like he agreed. Yeah, but it works. Eli's hand curled again, but slower this time, like it was thinking. Rachel looked at her brother. For the first time in a year, his eyes weren't empty. They were awake. The next day, the lake was steel gray, wind cutting across the water. Rachel showed up anyway. Because hope is a stupid thing. And humans are worse. Eli shuffled beside her, dragging his foot, jaw tight like he was preparing to be disappointed. But Knox was already there. Same jacket, same lunchbox. This time a towel spread on the grass and a cheap foam mat. He didn't smile big. He didn't celebrate. He just said, good, you came. And then he started. Heat from a warm bottle tucked into a towel for Eli's wrist. Gentle stretches. Small tasks. Not open your hand. Just touch your thumb to your finger. Then feel the grass with your shoe. Then lift your heel 1 inch. Eli failed. And failed. And failed. Knox didn't flinch. He kept talking about cartoons. About the lake ducks. About how brains learn like puppies. And somehow Eli kept trying. On the 4th meetup, Eli snapped. He slammed his good hand against his thigh and said, I'm done. Rachel's eyes filled instantly, but she didn't speak. Knox sat down on the mat. He looked smaller than ever. You think I don't get tired, he said. Eli stared. Knox lifted his lunchbox and set it on his knees. My grandma's not here anymore. Rachel froze. She used to say, Knox continued, when you're mad, it means you still want it. Eli's shoulders shook once. Knox leaned closer, voice low. If you quit now, you teach your brain that quitting is safer than trying. Silence. Then Eli whispered, barely. I'm scared. Rachel's mouth trembled. Knox nuttered like that was the whole truth. Me too, but scared isn't stop, it's close. Eli wiped his face with his sleeve like a kid. Okay, he said. And they tried again. 2 weeks later, Eli's hand opened enough to hold a spoon without dropping it. A spoon. Something nobody posts online. Something nobody claps for. Rachel clapped anyway, in her kitchen, laughing and crying at the same time like she'd lost her mind. Eli stared at the spoon like it was magic. It's me, he whispered. And for the first time in a year, he said it like he believed it. Word got around. Not because Knox advertised. He hated attention. It was the moms at the clinic. The dads on smoke breaks. A therapist who saw Eli's gait improve and said, what changed? Soon at the lake, there were other families watching. A teenage girl relearning balance. A kid with a walker practicing stepping patterns. A man with a tremor trying to hold a cup steady. Knox didn't call it a class. He called it practice. Rachel pulled him aside one evening when the sun was going down. Where do you go after this? She asked. Knox shrugged. Sometimes wherever. Rachel's chest tightened. You have a place to sleep tonight? She asked. He didn't answer fast. And that was enough. The next morning, Knox stood on Rachel's porch holding that lunchbox like a shield. Eli opened the door. Eli, who couldn't tie his shoes a month ago, stood there on both feet, steady enough to hold the frame. He looked at Knox and said slowly, Come in. Knox blinked hard. Rachel stepped aside. Welcome, she said, no more waiting outside. Knox nudged once, like he didn't trust the world enough to smile yet. But his hands finally let go of the lunchbox. Just for a second. Weeks passed. Eli didn't become a miracle story overnight. He still struggled. Still dragged his foot on bad days. Still got tired. But he was moving forward. And Knox went back to school 2 days a week at first. Rachel helped. Therapists helped. A community center took notice. Not because he was a gifted kid. Because he showed up. Again and again. With a lunchbox full of tools. And a rule that sounded simple. But changes lives. The body remembers. When you remind it gently. So if you're watching this and you feel stuck. In your health, in your grief, in your fear. Hear me. Progress doesn't always look like a miracle. Sometimes it looks like a spoon held steady. A heel lifted 1 inch. A hand that opens just a little. And a kid on a cold sidewalk who refuses to let you believe maybe is the end. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs a reason to try again. Because someone out there is tired. And they need one small proof that they're not done.